Looks like we're live. There you see a little bit inception there. OBS looks like it's okay. I might turn this way just a bit. Gain's maxed out there. Cool. My first stream, so I'm just kind of poking around at some stuff. That's what I want. Chat pop out there. All right, let's get up Visual Studio Code. So the plan is to deploy a new Ansible server in my home lab environment and kind of go through the steps that I would do to kind of think through what that would look like and make it happen. Now let me go into OBS and mute the desktop audio so you don't hear beeps as I make mistakes and such. All right, let's see what branches I currently have. I haven't touched my lab in a week. I thought about like trying to plan this ahead of time and then, execute it. But I figured, we'll go through the process of actually planning and the like as well. Go and get Vert Manager going here. Connect to my hypervisor. Okay. So basically what I have, we have the current Ansible server, and so I'm going to need to really update this and update my initial deployment playbook. The challenge though is I currently have a home Ansible server. So I guess what I could do is an in-place upgrade, but not wanting to do that. I would like to start fresh and also start with Ansible core. So all of this is pretty much going to be the same. I don't see any need to change the IP information, if at all possible. So let me go ahead and, first of all, let me make a branch. I almost forgot to do that. So we'll check out. This will be deploy new Ansible control node. And let's go back to here. Oh, there's a couple people viewing it. Neat. I was not expecting any, to be honest with you. So if you're watching, feel free to say something in chat. I'll try to watch that and respond if I can. All right, so now that we're in our branch, I'm going to change this to 37. I have Fedora 37 ready to go as far as the deployment. Keep the disk space the same. I do wonder though if I want to change IP addresses, because technically No, I'll just keep that the same. That way I don't have to update DNS or anything. It's not managed by DNS within Ansible as well. So save this. I'm a fan of committing changes, like committing small changes. Don't just do a bunch of stuff and then do one big commit. And I have a bit of a ritual that I do. I will usually look at a diff to make sure it looks okay. Do get add dot often, check the status again to make sure that it is the file I want to modify or the change that needs to be committed. Get commit, and we'll say use Fedora 37. Awesome. So we have that. Now the other thing that I need to do, so we have that set. I'm not going to be changing the DNS. I am going to take a look at some of the roles that I've made. Let's first look at let's look at a couple of things here. Close all this stuff. I probably should have cleared this out before, but that's fine. See what I was doing with the initial playbook. So add an additional tag, and all right, and then after that, there is the actual doing base server config. I think I understand why I did that, but we'll have to go back through it just to make sure it's going to do what I want it to do. Okay, so let's take a look at the Ansible control node role. There will be a few things I need to update there. So tasks main. I do not want to install Ansible. All I'm going to want is just Ansible core for this. And the reason why I'm choosing Ansible core is I'm wanting to dictate the exact collections that I use, and that if you do the Ansible community package, then what you're going to get is a kind of like a curated version of of several collections, like Community General, Ansible POSIX, and several others, which is not a bad thing by any means. But the updates to those collections are going to be tied to whatever distribution is building the package for it. And I'm wanting to have a little bit more control over that with this particular go around of my Ansible control node. So we'll keep get core SSH pass. All of that looks fine. We're going to make our little service account. It's going to get passwordless sudo. Make the SSH directories and such for it. Loop Ansible admins. I'll need to see what the Ansible admins variable is, which I'll take a look at that. The requirements I'm going to need to update as a part of this, because since you see all the, I'm now using fully qualified collection names, Ansible built-in dot whatever. I'm going to need to go ahead and have the appropriate roles and collections made. All right, we have a handler for that. All right, there's actually a lot of stuff here while I'm thinking about this that I want to update and change, but I'm trying to stay somewhat focused on the task at hand, which is simply deploy a new Ansible control node, and then we can go into making changes to stuff. So first I want to take a look at that var Ansible admins. Okay, so that's good. That has what I want, which is the admin account that I make on these. The requirements templates, we're going to be changing those. Okay. One little trick about Git is the git grep command. And I'm going to be using that to figure out what all of the collections are that I need to get. No pun intended there. Just give me a little text editor there. And what I want to do, git grep community. There we go. So the reason I'm doing that, a lot of what I uses the community dot whatever for their collections. So I want to make sure that I have them in my list. Also, while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about what I might want to do on the next stream. Right now I'm in my music room just on the laptop. I might change to using my 2-monitor setup. The problem is that room it's a pain. I need to move some stuff over there to make that work. Community general. Oh, really? So I already have to have community crypto. That's going to be a challenge. I got to figure out how I'm going to have that ahead of time. I might have to change how I generate the OpenSSH key pair. And these are things when you're planning through a project to do, you're going to come up with little gotchas like that of things that you didn't realize you need to do that you're going to need to do. Let's see, that's part of community general, libvirt, general. Okay, so that's all of community. I think the only others that I use are POSIX, but let's do git grep POSIX. Yep, Ansible POSIX. Then we had the foreman as well. And what I can do, since I don't have a ton of playbooks, I would probably want to try to find like a more automated way of doing this, but I can do just a quick glance at these playbooks just to see if there's any other fully qualified collection names that I've forgotten. Most of my playbooks are just using built-in. I already know about libvirt. That's all built-in. Built-in. This is one thing I did do ahead of time was go through and already have an idea of what I needed. I think that's it. Technically, I don't need the foreman stuff anymore because I've taken away that server. Okay, so let me go back to my role. I'm going to update requirements.yml. Do I want to keep the foreman? Nah, I don't need it. Do a copy paste here. It's funny, I was working in the lab. It's kind of odd to say I'm working in the lab. It's like I'm going to a place, but no, it's just me here. I kept making a bunch of mistakes with copy paste. Trying to save myself some time, but you can see how well that worked out. take away the foreman. Save and commit this. That looks right. And this will be update collections list. Okay, so now I want to look at the Ansible config that I'm using. The reason being, I want to see what I have for my collections path. Okay, good. So the first path is SRV Ansible collections. That's what I wanted. So that's where I want those to go. That path should be ignored. Well, actually, it's outside of the directory. I might change that a little bit later on, but for right now, I'm happy with it. I did need to look at the community crypto, see where all I'm using that. Maybe able to hear a blow dryer in the background. It's my wife drying her hair. So get grep community crypto, and I'm using it, well, just in the main task. Open SSH key pair of the Ansible control of the Ansible control node role. So that's one thing to consider. I guess I would have to think this through as well. If you have like a core piece of your environment that you're wanting to control with Ansible, as far as the modules that you're using with your playbooks, that would be the thing to deploy that. I guess you have to consider the fact that if you're deploying it from scratch, you're not going to necessarily have all of the collections and such that you want to have. So it might not make sense to be using this particular module in the role that is just Ansible control node. But at the same time, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Or if any of you are watching, we'll see. Hey, we got some folks. Yay, audio sounds great. Thank you, Beanology. I appreciate that because I'm not using any headphones, and so it's kind of tough to tell on that. And also, who was the other? John Holbert, first live stream comment. I appreciate you watching. Not going to lie, it won't be nearly as entertaining as, a gaming stream, but, I was running into the problem of, I've been doing some stuff in the lab, and really the last couple of weeks I've been changing how I deploy VMs in this, and I haven't had time to make content for the actual, for the channel. So I'm thinking, all right, so how could I possibly kill two birds with one stone? And the idea of doing the live stream came up. Like, hey, I can do the lab stuff, stream it, maybe some folks will enjoy it or learn something from it, and all is good with that. So, all right, back to the task at hand. How I want to handle this SSH key. So, I guess, well, if I was in an environment with like VM templates, hit my mic there. Sorry about that. If I was in an environment with VM templates, then I guess I could have like a template that would have just been the Ansible control node that would already have this stuff in place. But let me think. Because this is going to, it's going to have that collection already there. What I could do is, All right, so this is one thing. This kind of bothers me, and I've done this, I guess, throughout my IT career and music ed careers as well. Is you're working with something, and you think it's going to be this complicated thing, but then when you take that moment to step back and you're going, oh, there's a far simpler solution, and the simpler solution for this is simply going to be the handling collections before I handle generating this SSH key. But the way I do that is through a handler, and I'll bet, yeah, the handler is what does the install. Okay, I don't think I want to do this that way anymore. I don't want that to be a part of the, I don't want that to be a handler. I want that to be just a part of the playbook, and then if this thing is changed, then we do it. Because I'm running into the problem that I have here of I'm going to need to have that that community crypto collection available before I can generate the SSH key for it. I guess one other thing, I didn't think about this, is needing to have the SSH key for GitLab. Well, it's typically what I set up in a production environment is I would have I'd have a systemd service that's just running on a timer, and what it would do is periodically reach out to wherever your repository is and pull down the latest files in the repo. And the idea behind that is, you don't put stuff, you don't commit to master or main in the repo unless it's ready to go to production. But this I really haven't done, and what I have done is later on set the just clone as needed. But this, I'm wanting to kind of do this from scratch, so I would need to be able to do that. Maybe not. I'm kind of thinking about how this is going to be deployed. So I'll need to run Ansible from somewhere. Maybe I will use a different IP address for the new Ansible server and simply rename this particular Ansible server. I think that might be how I would handle this. It really is kind of a chicken and egg kind of thing. Again, I thought about thinking this through before doing the stream, but I figured going through the thought process of it might be useful for folks. So how do I want to do this? Basically, the order of operations is I need to have something that is running this playbook to do the Ansible server, so I can't blow away the original Ansible server first. So let's do that. What changes have I made? Oh, I didn't commit that? I thought that I did. Let's look at my get log -2. Oh, I didn't change the packages, or I didn't commit that change of the packages. That's it. So let me do that now before I forget. Sometimes I'll cheat and just do get diff instead of get status first. That looks right. Add that. Make sure what I'm wanting to commit is what I want to commit. This is only install Ansible Now you can make the argument that maybe your commit messages don't necessarily matter that much for just your own little individual thing. I don't like that because one day I might go back to this and want to know why I did something or what this commit did. But in my opinion, when you're doing stuff with a home lab, always try to treat it kind of like production. I mean, it's not production, it's just, what you're doing at home. But I say give it the care that it deserves. So, all right. Yeah. So we're going to go back and we're going to make some changes. I do want to keep the name Home Ansible, but we are going to change the IP address that's used for it, and I'm okay with that. Now that I've thought about, I guess the workflow I'm going to do is from my original Ansible server, I'm going to deploy this new Ansible server and then blow away the old one. Yeah, that'll be the way to go for this. So let's see what IPs are available. I'll do that with DNS. I do need to restructure some of my folders here. It's a little bit out of hand, I think. All right, so I don't know why that's commented out. Oh, probably because I need to change the FQDN for it, but that printer, you can't see it, but it's right there. So it's still there. So I guess we'll just do 12 for this. And we're going to comment this out. Tend to comment out versus just deleting. At least for right now. I might change how I do that. I don't need to change named.conf. I do need to change my zone file. I gave that 12. This we are going to change. Oh, and I need to change I always forget that. Even though I don't have two DNS servers, I don't have like the primary, secondary, and the secondary is pulling updates from the primary. I still try to treat it like something that's real, and the serial does need to increment. So let me go back. There we go. I like that. And I haven't pushed these up to GitLab. I typically, like at work, I typically don't until it's pretty much time to do the merge request. But for my home lab, I'll kind of often do it either at the end of a session of working on something, or if I'm actively trying to test something, then I will push more often, because I'll then clone to my control node and go from there. Currently running on battery on the laptop, it's 81%, not bad. What was that guy that's in the HBO's Chernobyl? Not good, but not terrible, something like that. Anyway, that's a great series if you haven't seen it. All right, so DNS is done. I want to refactor how I do the collections. I'm going to need to do that before I generate the SSH key for the Ansible service user. I'm going to have to update the base config as well. I just thought about that because this key is going to be changing. Okay, that's fine. All right, so let's it's kind of neat. I really haven't touched this role in a while, so as you obviously can't see what's going through my head, but I'm like, oh, well, I need to do this better, or I need to do that better. That group, Ansible admins, needs to be there, otherwise it's going to complain. So we'll create the directory and we'll make the requirements file. And what I need to do is register this. So this will, what should I name this variable? Let's do just requirements results. I tend to do whatever underscore results when I do variable registrations. We're not going to notify this. We are going to make a task to install the collections and the roles. This will be the shell. I'll get the command in a moment. This is going to be when requirements results. That's one thing I do like with Visual Studio Code, the little highlighting thing. So easy way for me to do a quick spell check. Changed, because that'll be true, and then that will fire off. So let me go back to the handlers. Yeah, we'll do it like this. No, why reinvent the wheel? We can just copy paste. Famous last words. And then everything breaks because of a copy paste error, right? Of course, just like that. You might wonder why I'm manually doing my 2 spaces rather than somehow setting up Visual Studio Code, just do tab as 2 spaces. That's just because, I mean, I would potentially work on so many other little things in Visual Studio Code. I don't want to have that level of customization, because inevitably I'll get busy with something and forget about it, and it causes problems. So this does look good. Serving Ansible requirements when changed. Okay, cool. So that's now going to install the roles, install the collections, which will then make sure that the crypto collection is available to make the SSH key pair. So I like that. And we'll clear that file out. Save everything. Guess I'll put this in posterity, or put this in chat for posterity. I do want to be clear, I'm not actually on the clock for work. My work day is done, so I'm not like cheating work time to be able to play in the home lab. That's kind of the beauties of my job and just doing sysadmin stuff in general is, I mean, yeah, there's challenges with the job, but I truly enjoy doing it. And so it's like, even though, yeah, I'm doing this for work and for production, and, you know, if I mess up, bad things happen, it's like I get to go to work and play in my home lab, but home lab is production for the company. So, all right, let's look at the diff. Yep, we're going to be changing that, and then we're adding stuff, getting rid of those two things. So I like how that looks. Double check that these are the things that are going to be modified. Installation, yeah, that's right, of collections and roles. Now, earlier I said that I like doing little small commits, and then here you see me do one that's 2 files and large blobs. It depends on the change that's happening. But if I am going to do several changes like that in one commit, they would all be related in somehow, rather than just being, you know, random change. All right, so I like how that is going to work. Now, though I said I have to deal with the main, or not main, the base role. I'll take a look at that in a minute. I can close handlers. For initial, I'm going to do that. Yes. Have I changed how I'm handling SSH? Then I think I made a separate playbook for that. So the issue here, if you're curious, is I don't like turning off strict host key checking, because I like that feature of SSH where, you know, when you SSH to something for the first time, it says, hey, are you sure you want to trust this machine fingerprint? And you tell it yes, and then good. Well, if that fingerprint were to change and then you try to SSH to the machine, it's going to complain. And that's a feature, because if something has changed there with SSH, or you're being man-in-the-middled somehow, you know, you want to be notified of that. The problem here with Ansible is it's like I want to have both. And so one of the things I do in my VM deploy script is oh crap, I just realized one other thing. The VM deploy script playbook I have depends on Ansible being there. So I think I might have to do a little bit of manual stuff with this, more manual than I would want. But anyway, in the playbook for deploying new VMs, it populates the SSH known hosts, because, at least for my lab, I'm making the calculus that in the 30 seconds between VM deployed, VM reboots, it's not going to be man in the middle, which is not necessarily a good security practice. And I'm curious, if any of you that are watching or watch this later, if how you handle the SSH host keys in your environment. Do you just turn off strict host checking? Do you do what I do with basically using SSH key scan to grab them? I know the Fedora project does stuff with certificates, and I have not. I haven't went down that road. So maybe that's actually the best solution, is to deal with certificate authentication. But just something to think about. Okay, so base server config. There was something I wanted to look at there. I can close the DNS stuff. Yeah, this is going to have to change. Yeah, so what I'm going to have to do is deploy the control node and then grab that SSH key and then remove it from all the other hosts. That's exactly what I'm going to have to do. Kind of backed myself into a corner with that. Not the end of the world, though. It can be dealt with. So going back to the home Ansible playbook, I will run this with initial. And I'm going to need to make the updates afterward for that. Because I can't truly configure the service account because this key, unless I guess I could register the public key and then somehow make that available. I'd want to do some more thinking about that. I'm not sure if that would be truly live stream worthy thinking, because that's going to be 10 or 15 minutes of me just kind of sitting here literally thinking, and I know that's not going to be the most entertaining thing ever to just listen to a person think for a while. All right, so maybe ready to start trying to test some stuff out. Man, it bothers me that well, let me show you what I'm talking about. So, deploying a new VM. This is how this playbook works, which I probably could have zoomed the screen. I know that my little picture is here. So, in order to do the new VM deployment with what I have, first thing this playbook is going to do is run the update DNS playbook, which all that does is connects to the DNS server and runs the template module to update the zones and reloads it. So that way you'll get name resolution firsthand. So it'll connect to the hypervisor. You'll be prompted to give it the fully qualified domain name of the VM that you make, which that means that you have to have this host virus file available already, which I know is a dependency, and for right now I'm okay with that. Can't solve all the world's problems in one lab session. After that, it is going to gather all of the VMs and is basically going to check and see if a VM by this name, and that is the VM name here. It's going to check and see if a VM exists. Oh, there's more to it than that. Where is that? Where does that end? Yeah. When VM name is not in the list of VMs, then it's going to be doing all this other stuff. So that's why I have, if I'm going to use the current Ansible control node to deploy something, that's why I would have to change the VM name. Man, I think I have backed myself into a corner here. Oh well. We'll look at that in a minute. But then what it's going to do, it's going to load all the variables or all the host vars for this new to be made VM. That's why the host vars file has to be there first. And I have a little warning: if the VM is under 2 gigs, you have to answer the prompt. And the reason being, I found that at least for Fedora VMs, if I deploy a VM with under 2 gigs, when it's doing its initial install of stuff, systemd OOMD will kill DNF, and thus playbooks and such will fail. So that's a pain, but that's just the way it is. Then what it does is it will basically make a kickstart file or do what's needed to be done for Cloud Init, and uses virt install to do the VM. So that this stuff is not dependent on the Ansible control node. The seed, ISO, all that is for Ubuntu. Where we have the Ansible control node issue is for that SSH key scan. And the other issue is the last thing that it does is it does the base role for whatever VM that you're making. And the problem there is that the SSH key that is going to be made for the Ansible service account obviously is new. So I don't think I'm going to be able to actually use my deploy new VM thing for the Ansible control node itself, which is really probably not the end of the world. Simply because it's just like you're deploying the thing that's needed for everything else. So I think to handle this, there was one other thing that, all right, let me do a git grep. As I remember in the early days of this lab refresh, I used Ansible to set some host files. So let me do git grep. Oh, it's not going to be good. We'll do this. Git grep etc hosts. Nothing for etc hosts. We'll do this. SSH known host. All right, cool. So that's not a thing. I wonder on my Ansible control node, another little thing. Forgive me if I butcher your name, but yo, Paulo Oliveira, how are you? I'm doing well. After RHC, you plan on taking any other certification now? Yes, I'm going to start I'm going to start on the path for RHCA. I'll talk about that in a bit, but thank you for bringing that up. Well, Paulo, which, man, I know I'm killing your name there. My apologies. But yes, I am planning on going toward the RHCA, and I might do that in a separate video. I'll think about it. But the short answer is yes. That's going to happen. All right. So what I want to do is SSH into my Ansible control node. Do another tab here. Yeah, that's what I thought. I used, I don't know why I have that for various other things that I've had to test. So I don't think this is under Ansible control. So let's go ahead and change this, because I really don't want to be using the host file for this. I'd rather use my DNS service. At the very least, we'll get rid of home Ansible. While we're at it, get rid of these two. Okay, so that issue's out of the way. So I'm not going to be able to do my little automated deployment, so I'm just going to start a regular VM. But I want to do, probably should do this the Ansible way, but I don't have the Ansible way set up for this. And there was, as far as changing a VM name, and there would be more involved than just what I'm doing with the other little dependencies I have. You know, I will say doing this, talking through the lab here on the live stream is uncovering all sorts of little dependencies I have in my lab that I simply didn't realize were there, or maybe did realize but thought, it's not a thing, but now it's becoming a thing. So I'll just SSH as root. Notice the cardinal sin SSHing as root, but I do that for my lab server for reasons. So versh list, I should, pretty sure there was a rename for versh. Yeah, DOM rename. All right, so we'll call this versh DOM rename. Domain is home Ansible. New name will be home Ansible old. Can't be active domain. Okay, so versh shutdown. I'm kind of not surprised with that, because I'm sure it's having to change like XML and such as well. Okay, so let's try this again. Home Ansible old. Of course, that would have broken. Oh, it broke that. Cool. There's home Ansible old. Excellent. I guess I'll answer you in the chat. So you got both me talking to you and in the chat. Yeah, added bonus, right? Okay, so I've done home Ansible old. And what I'm going to do is the manual way of doing a VM, because I can't use my little automated thing. Still don't think it's necessarily a problem, but it just kind of irks me. All right, Fedora server. I want this one. And what did I give my control node? Because I'm going to try to keep this the same. I only gave it only gave it 1 gig of RAM. Oh, well, congratulations, Ansible control node. You're getting an upgrade. You're going to get 2 gigs of RAM, and you're going to get 2 CPU as well. That's going to be a problem. Because the disk, I tend to name my disks after their VM, and so that's going to be a thing. All right, so let's do a little bit of surgery here. So versh shutdown home Ansible old. And images, I'm going to rename all right, and I need to go into the XML as well. So versh DOM edit. Oh, just versh edit. Domain home Ansible old. Okay, so Let's search for home ansible.qcal2. Okay. No, I don't do the recording thing. So we're going to substitute home ansible qcal2 with home ansible old qcal2. All right. Let's see if it'll boot. All right, that is looking somewhat promising. Yeah, cool. All right. So now we can have a VM with the proper name in it. So before I do that, I'm going to take a quick break, give you the I'll just swap to another desktop. There you go. So get a little desktop of Naruto and Hinata, and I will be right back. You are exactly right. Beanology. Well, I feel kind of beauty of the first live stream, right? You forget to turn back on your forget to turn back on your mic after you take a break. Oh well. Well, you got to see the silent version of getting a VM going and hearing me talk about it and fix the disk stuff. But all right, so now you should be able to hear me. Yeah, listening, but now you're watching. Well, I'm glad you're watching. So what I was, at least the big thing is now. So on the certification stuff. So my RHCE is going to expire next year, and I'm not a fan of taking the same cert test twice, just because I'm of the idea of, so you got the skills for said cert, and you're taking the cert exam to say that you haven't forgotten the skills that you had. And so I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start the RHCA track, and from what I understand, each of the certs or each of the exams for RHCA for one of the certs for that will renew the RHCE cert. And the thing with RHCA, if none of you know, that's the Red Hat Certified Architect. We don't necessarily care about the name. I care about the things I learn. And there's a list of exams, and you have to pass 5 of them. And once you pass, or rather, it's not just pass 5. You have to have 5 like valid. I guess cert would be the right thing, but the cert that you earn for each exam, 5 of them have to be valid concurrently for you to be considered RHCA. So probably starting in January. I might start it sooner, but it's likely going to be January. I'm going to start studying for some of those. I have a list of the ones that I'm interested in, and I'm somewhere on this laptop, but I know one I'm going to look at is the identity management cert. There's one that is the troubleshooting one. There's one for performance tuning I'm going to look at. And the other two, I think there's a more advanced Ansible one that if it's still a valid cert, I'm going to do that. And I want to think the 5th one is a security thing, but those first 3 I'm definitely going to do. And that's how I'm going to renew my RHCE, and then hopefully I will be able to get through 5. And I'm planning on using the Red Hat Learning subscription for that, which is one of the reasons why I'm waiting until January, because that is a non-trivial expense. But past RHCE, I really haven't found any like third-party training stuff. And since these exams are $400 a piece, I want to use the stuff from Red Hat. And my idea of doing certs and the training is you kind of learn the Red Hat way of doing things, just like with Microsoft certs, you learn the Microsoft way of doing things. And I think getting that from the actual vendor is probably a good thing, good investment. All right, come on, little. I'm complaining about this VM taking a while to install, and then remember I only gave it 1 gig of RAM to be able to work with. But while that install is going on, I can double check a couple of things. So I should, if I update DNS, then I may be able to just run this. Yeah, I can run this from my old Ansible server. That would be pretty cool. So let me do that. So while this is going on, let me, just curious. Oh, a total of 21 views. That's pretty cool. And people stuck around for 9 minutes. That's, you might think I'm being sarcastic. I'm really not. I'm quite surprised with that. I wasn't really expecting anyone to come and watch a home lab thing. But those of you that are right now, I'm glad you're here. And those that have come and gone, thank you for taking the time with it. Okay, back on track. I'm going to push this to GitLab. Oops. origin. What's the name of my branch? Yeah, git push origin set upstream. Pull new Ansible control node. Awesome. Actually, while we're at this, let me go and SSH back into my old Ansible control node. All right, so I'm on main. Let me fetch. And we're going to check out the remote for this. All I want to do is update the DNS for right now. If you're going to do this while the VM is going. Right. If I were to dig, let's see, my current IP address is 8, and if I were to dig home Ansible slab.com, good, that comes back as 12, which is what we want. All right, so that's done. Still embarrassed about not turning back the mic or turning back on the mic volume when I got back. But oh well, things happen. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to take a snapshot of this VM. Just in case this goes wrong. Actually, because I'm going to do it truly after I push changes to master. But let's do SSH key scan. Actually, I need to do sudo SSH key scan. Should be available to me. Yeah, sudo SSH. No, that's not going to work. Let me just come into root for that. I'm going to do home ansible.egslab.com. I need to get rid of the current home Ansible stuff. So let me do vi etc ssh known host. Keyscan home ansible.egslab.com, and we'll append that to SSH known hosts. All right, so back to here. So we have the key trusted. So we've updated the role. So in theory, we should be able to just run the home Ansible playbook, and the tag that I would use for that is initial. Let me double check. Yeah, tags initial. All right, let's see what happens. A lot of times I'll step through a playbook, but for this, nah, we'll just do it. Host home Ansible tags initial. I do need to specify a user and be able to do sudo passwords for that. And let's see what happens. This over here, so my little picture is not covering it up. This is where the systemd OOMD might come in and kill DNF, but we'll see. Hopefully not, though. I'm trying to remember, was it killing DNF, or it may have been just terminating the SSH session. I can't remember off the top of my head, but ultimately what was causing problems when I was testing my new method of deploying VMs is it was failing on the part of the base server role for the installing packages. There's a few things I'm installing here, and just gonna have to grab Python dependencies and all that good stuff. So that's why it's just taking a little bit of time. And we're at that. See if any new things in the chat. No, it made it through. Excellent. So it's making the group. Boo. Destination directory SRV Ansible does not exist. Okay, so do I not? Let's go back to the Ansible control node. Yeah, I'll bet that is a thing. I didn't actually create the, but I was able to do I made the collections directory, but actual SRB Ansible does not exist. Yep, oops. Maybe I need to actually have the role make the base directory that stuff is going to work out of. So let's do that. This is why I made that snapshot. So that way I can just go back to a nice clean slate and try again. So create Ansible root directory. And you know, none of these are going to have I just realized something else. Well, I need to do this anyway. So Ansible built-in file. Path will be SRV Ansible. Normally Ansible group, Ansible admin, mode, should be in quotes. I'll need to go back and fix that on all these others someday. And state, I'm also going to change how I do permissions, but that's not going to happen tonight. State directory. I do want to look at something. No, none of those. I'm actually explicitly. All right. I think I'm okay with that. So the configure networking is going to fail because there's no host var available yet. You know, I think I might be going about this the wrong way. Maybe I should make a playbook specifically for just deploying an Ansible control node. Like the very basic, well, see, this is what's kind of annoying with the chicken and egg kind of thing is I want to manage networking in the playbooks, but this is obviously going to fail because this is relying on variables from the host vars for this for the Ansible control node. But the more I think about it, this may be better as a group kind of thing. And I wouldn't be doing nix for the group. So maybe I should just blow away the configure networking piece of this. That might be the way to go because this is going to fail. Yeah, let's do that. So we've added this to main. We're going to make the basic root directory. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do with this. All right, so save. Let's go back to here, get diff, yep, get add, get status, get commit. And while we're at it, from the I'll do it from this because this is the same as it is on almost all the other VMs. So I'll just get rid of this. And Beanology complimented my GitLab. Thank you, Beanology, for that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I'll address GitLab in just a minute because I'm actually going to, at some point, restructure how I have the Ansible stuff, and I'll talk about why I'm going to do that a restructure soon. Not that what I have is terrible; it's worked for me, but when I've had some, well, I guess I'm talking about it now. When I've had some time where I haven't touched this in a month or so, coming back to it, what the inspiration behind it is how the Fedora project does it. And I'm not saying that, you know, Fedora project is perfect with everything, but that is, that's one of the places I really started to cut my teeth with learning about Ansible, is seeing how that project's done. And a couple of things that I will do differently is, let me collapse. Actually, let me go to my GitLab page and I'll talk about that real quick. So home lab Ansible. All right. So a couple of things I'm going to do differently. Rather than split out templates and vars files and such, I'm probably going to make a directory just called files and put that stuff in there, because what I started finding was I would forget where I would store certain things. And yes, it kind of makes sense, templates are there, but that can, I think maybe having a files directory that will hold templates and scripts and the like, and maybe having subdirectories for either particular groups or particular hosts, I think that may be a little bit better approach for me the next time. But I do like the idea of having modular kind of things, such as you have a task that you can include in different playbooks and such, which is why I've done the directory structure the way that I did. But I'm happy that you like what I did, so thank you for that. All right, let me go back. So we're getting rid of those, the handlers. So we're basically going to have 2 plays in that playbook, each doing a different role, and I'm okay with that. Get add, get status, commit. Remove networking config. We'll go ahead and push that to GitLab. All right. And I'm lazy, so I'm going to do this. Fetch. No, I'm super lazy. I'm going to do this, history 1006. Okay, so that gives us the most up-to-date branch. And I'm also going to run the snapshot. I'm going to send a quick message real quick. Wow. English is hard on Friday night. It'll take me just a moment here. Okay, so did that, did the snapshot. What did it of course I'm going to lose all the scrolling. Oh, wait, maybe. Okay, so now let's rerun this playbook. So it'll take a minute to install those packages. One other change I'm eventually going to do to my Ansible environment. Right now, the way I have this set up is very similar to what I did when I was learning for the R8CE, to where really the only account that is reaching out to these servers to do stuff is the Ansible account. And I think what I might do instead, I'll still have an Ansible account, but I would have like SSH keys for other user accounts, which would be my my one other user account, and have the Ansible service account trust the SSH key from another account, to where the Ansible account is still like the point of contact, but you don't have to always be running as the Ansible user account. And the idea there then being, let's say that you have to do security audit and such of your Ansible control node, then you can see at the time, who's doing an outbound, Ansible playbook, whatever, as your user, and you can correlate time with when it logs in as Ansible SVC or Ansible service account, or whatever you call your account. For me, it's just Ansible. The one other thing I may do at some point, I'll probably do this if I'm doing that RHCA exam on identity, is maybe trying to get some type of LDAP thing going on, to where new VMs would use LDAP authentication and I would just use my admin account versus the Ansible account to do this. But just ideas to do. That's really kind of the cool thing with Home Labs is if you have an idea to do something, try to make it happen. The problem is you're going to find yourself putting a lot of time into your home lab, because inevitably whatever idea you have, you'll run into various either technical challenges or knowledge gaps and such that you need to fill. And while that can be fun from a sparking your curiosity perspective, it can be a bit of a pain, because like now this stream's been going on for hour and a half, and I took just a couple minute break, and you look up and you realize, oh, it's bedtime or whatever, and you've spent your entire time in your home lab. Thankfully, I have a loving wife that understands my don't necessarily call it obsession with the home lab, but the passion for learning and such. And so she's cool with my home labbing and such. All right. So that hasn't complained, and it's installing the roles and collections, which will take a little bit of time. I guess we could cheat and go into the console and see the stuff happening, but I'd rather just wait for the playbook. This is the one critique I have of this. I mean, I understand that it would be a great technical challenge, if not technical impossibility, to get some type of kind of live feedback from, while it's doing this, show me what you're doing. I mean, you can do various levels of verbosity, but it's not the same as, you're at the command line and you're watching the standard output go by. Now I know some people that have complained about Ansible and the fact that, I don't know if it's stuck or if it's actually doing something. I don't necessarily see that as a problem, but just kind of an observation of it. Oh, well, it made it through. Can it create the SSH key? Yes, it did, which means it successfully. So it successfully made the SSH key. We'll take a look at that in just a moment, which means the collections thing worked, but it failed here. Make sure this exists. Did I do something screwy with that task? All right, we'll check that out in a second. But before then, I want to. Oh, I'm going to have to reopen that in Vert Manager. No, you saw the first 3 characters of my super secret password. Now I'm exposed to everywhere. All right. Odd. We should have an account for that. Oh. Sudo su-l Ansible. There we go. I'm trying to go too fast. LA SSH looks good. What's all this other stuff? Ubuntu test.egslab.com. So you on the stream probably realize what I've done. Exit, log out. Maybe if I go into the correct VM, then I'll see what I'm expecting to see. Been a long day. Good day at work, but long day. All right, sudo sul. I was wondering why I didn't do the whole warning about that. Okay, this looks better. SSH. And there was the private key that it made. And ID, RSA, pub, and the public key. Sweet. All right, so it did do that. So I'm happy about that. Let's go ahead and run the snapshot because we're going to be doing this again. That's the thing. Some of them I find with Ansible, I would rather snapshot, blow away, and try it again and get the playbook to where it's exactly right versus like go from here and see necessarily how to fix it. That's kind of what I do. Also, not like testing in production, rather, but at work, you know, I test playbooks. I mean, I'll step through them and such, but I will not consider the playbook ready until I've at least had a 2 or 3 runs of that playbook and it's configuring what I want, it's idempotent and all that good stuff before I say it's truly ready for production. Let's take a look at this make global known host file, make sure it exists. So I'm probably doing something wrong. Yep, I think I need to add create for that. So let's make sure. Maybe I'll get to a point where I have all this memorized, but the longer I've been in IT, I mean, I know a good bit of stuff, but if I have the time, I might as well check and make sure. I'm pretty sure there is, I may be confusing some salt stuff with it because I have to deal with salt at work. I was fairly sure there was attributes that, or a parameter I have to use to tell it to make the file if it doesn't exist. Touch, that I always forget that. I have to do state touch for a new file. I guess I won't care if its timestamp is necessarily changing. Okay, so we'll fix that. You know, probably a better way of handling this is do the stat module, and then if it doesn't exist, do this. So that way I'm not, because the thing with touch is it will literally do the command touch, which is going to change a timestamp, and I don't necessarily want this file to have its timestamp changed unless the actual file changes. So let's handle this a little differently. We'll say check for global SSH global known host file. Stat path will be etc ssh known hosts register known host results. Let me double check stat. See if there's anything I'm missing there. I don't think so. Yeah. And another thing that I will often do is I have a foo. Yeah, I'll make a little foo playbook. And in this, I'll do a thing and debug the variable to make sure that I have the output that I want. So hosts, tasks, we'll register that to foo. Just one foo for that. Okay, so I'm going to have to do stat and then exists. See what I'm saying here? Foo stat exists. It's an easy way to make sure you have what you need for your variable. So this is going to be when not known host results. Yep. Stat exists. So when that, so we're going to check for this. If this returns false, or rather, if this does not return true, then we're going to make sure the file exists. And we'll get rid of the syntax error too. All right, I like how this is. Let's see. So let's go back, get status, get diff. That looks good. Get add status, get commit. We're going to be account for, let's see, account for file not existing. All right, push that to origin. Then on this side, get checkout main force. We'll fetch. I've already done the snapshot, so let's run the playbook again. So I'm happy that the collection thing is working the way that I want. The idea, I know this truly isn't like full on infrastructure as code, obviously, because I'm have some manual stuff going on with this, but I know that's a big thing now, and it's a good thing to try to get to as far as your infrastructure if you're using tools like Ansible. But the thing you can't forget, and obviously I have some with this, is your infrastructure as code is a good thing, but how do you handle a deployment of your new from level zero, from nothing? How would you handle that? Now I've been thinking about that, and like on one hand, yeah, your infrastructure as code, you're making changes to your playbooks and such as your environment needs to change and needs to be configured and such. But the question of how to handle the very first deployment, because you'll have things that have dependencies on one another. For example, if you're doing like what I'm doing, you're managing DNS via Ansible. Well, what comes first, the DNS server or the Ansible control node? Well, you probably need to have DNS. So maybe a way of handling that is you have a set of scripts that you can make a VM and copy to it some very initial bash script or PowerShell script, whatever, to get some of the most core of core services going, like to get your initial DNS server going and like this, get your initial Ansible control node going, to where then you can clone your infrastructure as code repository and fill out everything else. So just some thoughts with that. So while we wait on that to install, see if any other questions. Nope. Hey, we've had 29 people view so far, and that's pretty cool. In the future, I'll probably do these on weekends and maybe not as late. Oh, let me change this browser back to that so you're not getting the Inception video. Yeah, I think what I'll do on the next one is be in my multi-monitor setup, share one monitor for the stream, and just bring stuff over into it. This is probably getting annoying with the me changing window focus and such, but I roll with GNOME Shell, so that's just how it is. I do want to thank those that are watching at this moment and have taken the time to watch some parts of this. I appreciate it. And this is kind of what, or at least in my opinion, home labbing is. It is very similar to work. And my wife's asked me sometimes, like, you're just basically coming, leaving work to do work. And or that's not really a question, but anyway, it's a little different than work in the fact that if I break this, I'm not going to have someone screaming at me, "Hey, I can't do my job." That being said, what? Not known results. Okay, so yeah, that's annoying. Now what I'm going to do, rather than repeat that same process I just did, for this one, since really what I'm wanting to check is the logic, I'm just going to VI and fix this. So this will be roles, Ansible control node, tasks, main, and just fix it right here real quick. I guess on a positive note, this would give me a chance to see how idempotent the playbook is. We try to make that happen, the playbook to where you run it multiple times, and if everything's in the state that you want, nothing changes. You wouldn't really get idempotency with the installation of roles. Rather, the idempotent piece would be the fact that a task would be skipped like that, and it just skips it. So let's see. Yep. So does that? All right, cool. So that passed. Now, I would not, consider this full-on success yet, because I want to have at least, well, for real life, at work, I would want to have 2 or 3 runs of this playbook to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. But in the lab, I want to have at least one good run of it. So let me go back and revert the snapshot. While we're doing that, I will let's see. So we revert the snapshot. Let me go ahead and do the get dance. No, I don't need to merge anything. I need to check out remotes, origin. Okay. So now this should, famous last words in IT, right? Give us an initial control node to the point that we can add a key to GitLab, pull down the repo, and move on to the next step. This is going to have more than one pull request, just frankly because there's more things I've thought of that need to be done with this. While we're waiting on that, see if there's any other little comments. There are none, and that's fine. Again, I'm happy that folks chose to join me for some of the stream here. My background in teaching, I enjoy explaining stuff that's going on, and this is the perfect opportunity to do that. These packages will probably install faster if I gave that VM more than a gig of RAM, but that's fine. Also, I initially was going to do this stream for only about 2 hours. I might try to get to the end of this. Go ahead and plug in since I'm down to 33%. Battery life is usually pretty good on my Lemur Pro that I have, System 76 machine, but it's not designed to have a lot of horsepower, and streaming is going to tax this. just because I'm curious. See any other little stats? 3 concurrent views. Cool. There we go. This should go relatively quickly until we get to the point of needing to get the roles, and or rather collections. If any of you watching this now or later or in our Masters of Ansible, you're probably like, why is all this manual stuff going on? Well, just the way it is. What I've found is you do stuff, you do manual things until you can find a good way to automate them. But sometimes you will be bitten by the chicken and egg thing, which is really what's going on here with the home Ansible control node. The fact that like you need a control node to deploy a control node. That is one thing with this particular iteration of the home lab. I think the project in the README I have it something like the summer 2022 refresh is the goal of this lab is to do as much stuff through Ansible as possible, even if it's not necessarily the best way of doing it, but it was a way to make me be more familiar with using Ansible. It's really similar to how I really learned how to start my scripting and such when I was first learning PowerShell and such. The second IT job I had, I made myself for the first month or so like do as much stuff in PowerShell as possible, even if it meant I was being slow about things. But doing that got the allowed me to really get a good foundation of basics of PowerShell, and I think doing the home lab this way over the course of a year, because it'll be almost a year since I basically wiped my hypervisor and started over. I think I'm obviously not a master of Ansible, but this has helped me become more confident with using it. All right, so we got a success. That's good enough for me. So just make sure, yeah, nothing to push. So now I'm going to do my own little merge request and merge this in. Technically, I'll assign it to me. Squash the commits. Yes, I'm happy with my merge request. And I know it's kind of silly to do this versus just push to main, but again, it's all about kind of best practice, because if you're in an environment at work where you're using Ansible, this is how it's going to be done. You'll be making merge request or pull request depending on the Git implement or Git server implementation you have. So I try to emulate that with real life. So on that note, revert the snapshot one more time. I'm going to take one more break. I'm not going to forget to turn back on my mic, and I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. All right, so I'm not going to forget to do the mic this time. Like I said about home lab stuff, when I started this, it wasn't dark outside. Now it is. So we have pushed that. Let me go ahead and merge to my local branch. No, I do not want to do this. So get fetch origin. Now that I'm in the main branch, I made a mistake there, but I'm going to blow that away anyway. Branch -d. Okay, so now on the old Ansible control node, all right, merge origin main. Okay, so we're going to do this technically for real. Ansible Playbook. Home Ansible. I have to use my admin account. All right. I know the question becomes, you had that one good run of the playbook, why do it again? It's a matter of process. Just go ahead and merge this into main and then run it for what would be production for that. And while we're at it, we can go ahead and go into, I think this is where I do my SSH keys. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've, oh no, I forgot with GitLab, you can do it for particular projects. Okay, so let's go back to where I was. Made the decision to use GitLab a little while back versus GitHub. I still have a GitHub account, but I think in the comment of the GitHub account it says go to GitLab. But I have found that GitLab has just kind of better ways of doing things. Where is the SSH key? I'll bet this, yep, this is it. Yeah, that's about right. 8 months ago would be when I set that up. So we'll be putting the new public key there. I don't think I granted it right permissions. Which, by the way, if you do the model of your production Ansible control node is pulling down changes from your repo, I would set whatever key or account token or whatever you use for it. I would set that to not let it write back to the repo. All right, so this should be getting done pretty soon. Any new questions? Looks like no. Come on, finish. I'm sure again both my control node and the new control node are complaining about only having a 1 gigabyte of RAM, which is why it's taken a while. Probably hear the fan of the laptop spinning up. So while we're waiting on that, other things kind of coming down the pipe for the lab and the channel. As I mentioned before, I'll do some other work on Ansible control node. I want to, like right now, my VM deployment is it requires there needing to be a host vars file and such. I want to find a way to do my deployments using Ansible against KVM, and it would just be a throwaway VM. Like it's not actually going to be managed by Ansible. It's just I'm just going to be using Ansible to make the VM. So I'll probably make some videos of that. Also, I mentioned WireGuard when I did my review of T-Mobile Home Internet, which, by the way, hopefully the streaming quality is okay because this is going over my home internet connection. Oops. Well, let's see what happens. I realized a mistake that I made. This is going to suck. Yeah, I got to stop it. I forgot to say initial. And so as a result, this is going through the base, I wonder, let me look at this. No, we can't do the base server config because of the SSH key thing. Well, this is why we have snapshots, right? Do it again. So, like I was saying, I'm going to do some videos on wire. Oh, I was talking about the T-Mobile Home Internet. So hopefully this has been decent quality. I figured this would be kind of a stress test doing this on a Friday night, kind of in prime time. But this is using the T-Mobile Home Internet service. This is what I'm using to upload up to YouTube. And I'm going to do a couple of videos on WireGuard and the setup that I did because of those couple of sites that just don't play nice with T-Mobile Home Internet. And on the musical side, I'm working on an arrangement for saxophone ensemble. I haven't decided what particular ensemble, and I might make it kind of a modular thing of I'll make the arrangement for SATB, saxophone quartet, and then, alto, alto, tenor, baritone, and on and on and on. But from Final Fantasy VII, the melody on that day 5 years ago, you can look that up. That melody is one of my favorites in that game, and I am currently transcribing that or just transcribing the melody and the harmonies and such, and then arranging it for saxophone. And so when I have that done, I'll record it, try to do the multi-track recording and bring that to YouTube. Now that'll take a while, but that's the musical thing that's coming down. And I know I could probably get other resources that have already transcribed it, but it's just a challenge for my ear to get that done. So once again, installing the collections and the roles. Hopefully it won't take too terribly long. Oftentimes what I will do when I'm working on home lab, I'll have something else going on, like last night was opening night for Major League Baseball 2023, so I was watching the A's. I wasn't doing home lab stuff. I was actually doing a work thing. I was waiting for something to finish downloading. It was actually an Ansible thing for work, and I'll use the time of waiting for something like this to go to watch my A's or whatever. Which, by the way, the A's won. They have a winning record. Hopefully, by the end of the season, we'll be at 500. But we'll see. But if any of you watching this are baseball fans, go A's. I've bled the green and gold for a long time. Yeah, CPU usage is relatively high on that, but again, it's a small little VM. Another musical thing, my tenor saxophone is being overhauled right now, which there's a video, I think the name of it was Lullaby, where that was a little duet, tenor saxophone duet that I made. I put it on YouTube. That's the horn and also actually for the Lenini House stuff, it's the same instrument. I should be getting that back in the next week or so. Looking forward to it. It's the first overhaul it's had in almost 20 years. So it was due. I've actually not used this repair tech before that I'm currently using, but he's affiliated with a music store with whom I've had a long relationship, and so I trust the work will be good. All right, so initial control node is deployed. Should be able to SSH. All right, see Fedora release, and cool, I can do that. And Ansible Galaxy dash Galaxy. Boo. Should be able to show me my collections. So let's do Ansible version, Versino version. Where did it put I know the collection has to be there, because otherwise the I wonder. No, we just have the requirements. Yep. The Ansible config file has not actually been made yet. So therefore, the collections are going to have gone, I'm willing to bet, Didn't go there. Let's see where this tells me my collection is. There it is. Yep. There are my collections, or so I think. Okay, something is screwy. So let's do this. Sudo find name that is weird. All right. So we're on that server, and it made the SSH keys. Unless this, I am at a loss as to where these collections are. So let's come out of this. Okay, so we're back on our other one. That's Galaxy. Ansible collections. Yeah, that's where that would be. Version is using its Ansible config. That's the collections path. Unless it's hidden in that, which it shouldn't be. Yeah, it should just be there for those collections. This is odd. Well, beauty of home labbing live. But I'm probably going to have to end soon because I don't think my back can take this chair much longer. Okay. Yeah, there is nothing in there. Oh, that may be a mystery for another time. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this because I need to have control node at Fedora 37. I'm probably going to end the live stream now, like I said, because my back can't take much more of the chair. So stuff technically is working in the fact that, you know, the control node was made and the user is there and Ansible itself is installed. And clearly the collection worked, because otherwise the SSH crypto, wait, No. Of course it would have worked. I didn't need to do that because I'm like confusing my two different control nodes. The original Ansible had it. So yeah, so this actually is not functioning yet because I want to have the new control node download collections and such. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to do some more debugging and such. But from the string perspective, what I wanted to do was just kind of show this is what it's like doing stuff in your home lab. So if you ever need some ideas about home lab. So thanks for taking the time to watch. See if there's any other little questions and such. I doubt it. My two favorites for RHCSA study in one place. Awesome. So thanks for joining me. I hope from a geek's perspective, this has been somewhat entertaining. I was hoping to be able to do a start to finish, deploy this all in one setting, including planning, but alas, my back in the chair is not going to allow that. So thanks again for watching. I'll have some more content back up soon. Enjoy the rest of your Friday for those of us that are on the East Coast United States. And I think as I say in my little videos, I'll see you the next time. Thanks for watching.